Hi, we are doing this video presentation as a part of our assignment. This presentation was guided to us by our professor of the Canadian Business Law. I would like to discuss about this presentation. I would like to meet our team, which is of 5 members. The agenda of this presentation is to give an introduction to our topic and then further discuss it with the case. So let's talk about the introduction to my topic of this presentation. So the Personal Information Protection and Electronics Document Act, which is also known as PIPEDA, is a Canadian law related to data privacy. It governs how the private sector organizations collect, use, and disclose personal information in the course of commercial business. What does PIPEDA apply to? PIPEDA generally applies to personal information held by private sector organizations that are not federally regulated. It applies to all the 10 provinces in Canada. PIPEDA does not apply to organizations that do not engage in any commercial activities, like charity groups, political parties, and associations. Those are the organizations in which PIPEDA does not apply. Information that is personal under PIPEDA is regarded as a private information. So which information can be termed as private information? The information related to health of an individual is a private information. The employment related information of the same person is private, and the financial sector related information is also termed as private under the PIPEDA Act. The next part of this presentation would be continued by Sehaj.
Hello everyone, now I will talk about my case. An individual complained that his bank did not obtain the meaningful consent of its customer with respect to its disclosure practices. He also was of the view that the bank should be seeking the written consent of its customers for the disclosure of the personal information to third parties, except of those third parties that provide related administrative services. There was many issues and arguments in this case. The first was the complainant received a notice from his bank that it was amending its personal information consent clause for its credit and deposit agreements. The form indicated that the customer could withdraw consent by writing to the bank, although it warned that doing so might restrict the bank's ability to effectively provide products and services. The bank was developing a new product with an external organization or service provider. It decided to amend its consent clause to reflect the possibility of new products and services being co-developed with its affiliates and service providers, and to remind customers of their right to withdraw their consent to such disclosure. The Commissioner's Office reviewed the language used in the bank's account application and agreement forms, as well as in its privacy materials available to the clients. The bank acknowledged that the wording of the opt-out process and the use of service providers was vague, and agreed to clarify it in future printings of its materials. The complainant strongly objected to the bank's use of opt-out consent and believed that an individual's personal information should not be divulged unless that the person specifically permits it through written consent. Now Joyce will further continue with the Commissioner findings.
Commissioner's findings. Principle 4.3 states that the knowledge and consent of the individual are required for the collection, use, or disclosure of personal information, except where inappropriate. Principle 4.3.2 elaborates on the need for knowledge and consent. The Commissioner considered the language of the bank's consent clauses to be vague. The purposes for the collection and disclosure of personal information were unclear, and the type of information to be disclosed and to whom it would be disclosed unspecified. The commissioner found that the bank had not provided the basis for meaningful consent as per the requirements of Principles 4.3.2 and 4.3. Results and its reasoning. Principle 4.3.4 states that the form of the consent sought by the organization may vary depending upon the circumstances and the type of information. Principle 4.3.5 establishes that in obtaining consent, the reasonable expectations of the individual are also relevant. While the commissioner was satisfied that the bank was not disclosing sensitive personal information, he was nevertheless prevented from finding the use of opt-out consent acceptable. He therefore found the bank in contravention of Principles 4.3.4 and 4.3.5. The commissioner concluded that the complaint was well-founded and ruled in favor of the complainant. For the next slide, Divya will discuss.
This slide is about the general requirements of PIPEDA. Generally speaking, PIPEDA seeks to balance the right of privacy of individuals with respect to their personal information and the need of organizations to collect, use or disclose personal information in the course of carrying out their business. Obtaining consent is basic requirement for people. It's important to limit of collection of information and non-disclosure clause. Also, keeping only accurate and up-to-date data is required. Safeguarding the security of the information is most important in this law. Informing individuals of organizations' policy and practices for managing personal information, and developing and implementing complaint producers is one of the basic requirements of PIPEDA. Next part will be explained by Vikas.
Everyone. So I'm going to explain about the best practices of Personal Information Protection and Electronic Documents Act. So this act aims to protect individual and give them privacy over their data, and it's important to be up to date with this regulation. Non-compliance can lead to many consequences. If an organization is found to have knowingly breached these requirements, they can be fined up to 1 lakh dollars for this violation. In order to avoid this violation, so there are few steps which an organization should follow. The first is clear opt-ins. So an organization should let the customers to opt in into any customer. In the opt-in form, an organization would include information about why you are collecting this information and provide links to data and privacy policies. The second point is opt-out instructions. An organization to provide information about how to opt out of further communications in every customer's conversation. In email, we have received an unsubscribe button or unsubscribe link when a customer can unsubscribe themselves from receiving further details. The third is data cleansing. An organization should establish a regular schedule for data cleansing to keep up to date their data and also monitor those inactive customers and clear out those inactive data. The fourth point is responsive customer service. So in order to fulfill the customer's need, an organization should have a customer service department where this department can help to solve their queries, their responses, their any kind of issues they face through this department. The fifth point is data encryption. An organization should encrypt or should securely save all the data received by their customers and choose a customer and also customer should choose those provider based on their encryption, based on their power of the security. Many telecom industries use those data for their third party, and from there some kind of data, some kind of personal information about their customer get leaks in the market, which creates a real problem while safeguarding this principle. So this all these points an organization should make a practice in order to follow this rule and act. Here are the few links of our references from where we have collected these data and how we have completed our presentation, our project. So from all these links, we have taken out few points, few case studies, few details, more information about this act, and examples as well. Thank you so much. Here's the end of our presentation. Thanks a lot.